All right, so I'm going to say good morning, and I'm going to go over a couple of things. Basically, I record all these meetings so that when we have guys and gals that are out early in the morning, sometimes going to getting parts, whatever, for jobs that we have going on. So if they're not here, they have the opportunity to kind of just keep up and see what's going on. So this is going to be kind of a quick meeting because I don't really have a whole lot to go over today, and we have to get going through these jobs. So I think you're going to go with Kevin today, Jason. Make sure you tuck your shirt in before you go. Both of you guys look good before you get going.
Yes, sir.
And I think you're going to be going over, I'll have to look at the board, but we have you scheduled too, so. Okay, so one of the big things that's been happening lately here, and it has to do with the technicians, and I'm just going to tell you guys so you kind of understand what happens. The technicians, when they sell jobs, they sell larger jobs, and what will happen is the technician will then schedule the job with dispatch and say, okay, so we're starting a job starting May 1st today, right? Starting this job, and they need certain people. They know how many people they're going to need to get the job done. So they'll say, hey, I need Joey, I need Nick, I need, Oscar, whoever they need. And this is how many people I'm going to need. And can you schedule them for the next 3 days, the first, second, and third, okay? So then what we do in the system and Service Titan, it's our dispatch and scheduling software, we basically put in there that we need these people. We put notes in there. And we can, instead of, we schedule the job, we assign everybody to that job, but we also put notes all day for the next 3 days, whatever, these people are assigned to that job. And we do that because basically we want to make sure that nobody else comes up next and says, hey, I've got a job now starting on the 1st, and I'm going to need some help. Who's available? Well, we go into the scheduling and we can see, oh, wait a minute. Everyone here except for maybe Jason, whoever, just for an example, everyone's booked for the next 3 days. So we don't want to double book people, or, now all of a sudden the person who thought that, the second person who got a job on the 1st, maybe it's a large job as well, they're all screaming and like, I need help. And, I thought I had help, and then they get to the 1st, well, I told them I needed help. Well, they were already booked. So it's really important that the technicians do that. They call us and say, I have a job starting on this day. Can you make sure it's rescheduled? This is who I need. So we put the notes in the system. So dispatch has their part of the job, but the technician has their part of the job, making sure that they ask for who they're going to need. Okay? So that's a really important part of it. But what then sometimes has been happening is, for an example, yesterday, Oscar had something that came up and he had to leave early. Jesse wasn't feeling all so hot, and he wanted to go home so he could try to feel good for today because he knew this was coming up. And so basically, then all of a sudden, Sarah, who starts the job today, says, hey, I need somebody to help me with this. We're going to start this job a day early. And it's last minute. She's calling, you're already gone, he's already gone. And so now she's struggling to find somebody because she didn't tell me or tell anybody, I'm going to need somebody on Tuesday so I can prep some stuff for the job on Wednesday. You see what I mean? So that's what we got to start making sure happens. If you plan on doing any part of the job, all of it needs to be scheduled with dispatch. It's easy to come through me. I can do the same thing. But if we don't do that, then that's exactly what happens. I wouldn't say, for an example, if I would have known we needed somebody, I wouldn't have let Jesse go home. He was the first one that came to me. I said, no, Jesse, we need you to go and help her for a couple of hours doing this or that, getting ready for the job. But, when it happens the other way around, and all of a sudden last minute a technician says, oh, I need somebody, and it's not for something that just happened. I didn't get a job just now. That job's been scheduled. I'm just deciding to go there early and prepare. So I'm just kind of throwing that out at everybody, but you got to make sure, because it makes it really hard for us when we, I'm not going to let you sit around and do nothing. If I would have known that somebody needed somebody, then I wouldn't have let people go home. But on the other side of it, it's kind of like they're just expecting there always to be somebody available. I'm going to save labor hours and not just have you stand around. I'm going to have you go home when there's nothing going on. So the technicians need to make sure, if they plan on using anybody as a technician for any days and know ahead of time, then they should say it. Now it's different if, let's say that Ryan goes out and sells a job today and they want it done now, right? If you just got done selling, it's 2 o'clock. Now, I've already sent people home because I didn't need anybody, as far as I know. Then I would probably try to call somebody back in that case. But, normally in a situation where someone's sick, I'm not going to call that person back in. Number two, what Oscar had going on, he had to take care of some stuff for his house that was basically he's moving and everything else. So it's not like I want to call him back in because he's got stuff he's got to get done. So, it's important even when you're scheduling a job today. So if, for an example, that did happen to Ryan, he gets a job and they want to start today, well, then Ryan's going to have to kind of say, you know what, I don't have anybody else available. Let me see who I have available to help me. Call up dispatch, find out. We would have said, hey, you know what, I don't have anybody available right now. But, tomorrow I'll have Jason available, or I'll have Joey available, or whatever. I'll make somebody available for you tomorrow. So then in that case, Ryan would start what he could today, do whatever demo he had to do or preparation that he could do on his own, and then tomorrow would be his day of jumping in and getting stuff going. So, you've got to basically have some flexibility and don't overpromise and underdeliver. That's the biggest thing I can tell you. When you go to a customer and you say, hey, oh yeah, I can get this going right now, let me get a couple guys over here. But you don't realize that those guys are already being used somewhere else, you just screwed yourself and you just lied to the customer. So the last thing I want to happen, okay? I'd rather you over, deliver, and under promise. The other way around, just like that, okay? And if you do it that way, you're basically saying, let me see what I can do for you today. If anything, worst case scenario, I'll start today because I'm here. I'll start today, and then I'll call, we'll do the rest of it starting tomorrow morning. I'll get a good crew out here, and whoever I can get out, I'll get out. But don't say, hey, I'll do this, 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 and that, when you don't know you can do that, okay? Does that make sense? Okay. So that's a really important thing that we have to do going forward, is making sure we know who's available before you start promising things, or changing your mind and say, oh, I'm going to start a day early, and just assume that everyone's just sitting around waiting for you, because that's not going to happen in most cases, okay? All right, so the next thing is Green Sky. It's available, Green Sky is available on the iPads. And on the iPads, I know Ryan had a problem with it yesterday, so I'm bringing this up just to kind of, I had to kind of figure out how to do it. I brought an iPad in front of me. I know I went into the system through my computer. Now, when I look at them,
easier than I thought it was.
Yeah, when I go into my system in the computer, it does not look like your iPad at all.
No.
So I went in and made sure that everything was set up properly. But all you do, it's really simple. When you get into your screen, let's say you sell the job. Okay, so the job is sold and booked and everything else. It's in the system. You're going to do the work now. Remember, you always want to say, you don't want to say, I'm going to do the job later, ever. You want to say you're doing it now, even if you're not going to do it till next week, because you reschedule that job. Because the job, what will happen is this. If you sell an estimate, you hit sold, and you're not doing it now, customer signs off of it, oh, I'm going to do it later. Well, now, that's just sitting in the system as an estimate that's sold. It does not create a job until the job has been booked. Okay, because now you got to book the job. But if the estimate gets sold, now that becomes a job. It is now a job.
If you click now.
If you click now,
right,
it's now a job. If you don't click now, it's not a job. It's just an estimate that's been sold, and it's saying, well, book me whenever you feel like doing the job, or let me know when you can do the job. Book me, and then I'll become a job.
And it's a pain in the butt to get it transitioned from one to the other.
Yeah, and you have to know how to do it. I can do it in the office pretty easily, but from you guys' side of it, it's a lot more difficult. Okay, so it just makes a lot more work for everybody. So always say, just put now I'm going to do the job, even if it's not being done today, because now I'm going to make it a job, basically, is what you're doing. Call dispatch and we can schedule it for whatever day you want. That's fine. That's the first part. But now that it's a job, let's say now we've made it a job, we're doing the job, say we're doing it now, all you do is go to pay, you click on pay, and the little green tab comes up and it says, do you want your financing? And basically ask you, so if you click on that, Green Sky is the only thing that it's going to give you, basically it's going to give you their options. And I have already put in what items or options I want us to be able to use. So those are the only options you can use. There's 6 of them. And they basically tell you, so if it's 6 months, no interest with payments, without payments, 12 months, whatever, they're all in there, and you can click on whatever one your client wants to do, okay? So once that's done, all right, now you know, basically you can take your deposit now. It's just like a credit card, but there is another part of it that the customer is the one who has to talk to Green Sky. If anybody does, you can't call Green Sky. It all gets approved through your iPad. All right, so it's like a credit card number and everything else. But a lot of times, especially when you're paying the final bill, the customer gets called by Green Sky once we put all of it through to verify that they are who they say they are. They ask them a few questions, stuff like that. But that's done with Green Sky and the customer, because in the application process, you got to put in their phone number, their name, their social security number, all that stuff. Yeah.
Also, when you're going through Green Sky, basically, in all reality, you have your iPad, you can just hand it over to them,
Exactly.
and they'll fill it out. It's all their information. Really, it's none of the information we're really gonna have.
It doesn't stay
so
with us at all.
It doesn't say, we don't keep access to it.
Nope.
It really has very little to do with us. They're basically signing up for a miniaturized loan.
Yep.
Is the
It's like a
physical
credit
loan.
card. It's a credit card, guys.
It's a credit, yeah, it's a credit card, and what you wanna do is make sure that nobody clicks the submit button. At the very end, there's gonna be a button that says submit. Now, on that same sheet, it's gonna say the total that they're eligible for. Might be 5,000, might be 10,000. That doesn't mean that's the size of your job.
Right. That's their limit.
You wanna change that to your job. Otherwise, they're doing a credit card for 10 grand and you have a $4,000 job.
Right. However,
And now they're stuck with that, or they have to call in to try to get that transition because
Right.
there was an accident made. So you wanna make sure that they keep it simple. You can do that from your iPad. And then you don't have to call into them. Everything's completely done from there. You click submit, and the odds are, at least this happened yesterday, they got approved. And the next thing you have is basically a printout of the email they get, which is you're approved for this much, this is what you have, and the credit card number's in the top left-hand corner of your iPad.
Yep.
And now you can finish off all the payment.
Right. So what Ryan's saying is important to know, that if they get they can get a $25,000 limit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're doing a job for $3 grand.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So if you put in there 25 grand, guess what?
It's at the very end, not in the beginning,
Yeah.
because it gives you 2 times where you say
Right.
that. Say, how much do you want? You'll say 3 grand. And
Right.
at the end, it says, you're approved for 20 grand. And it'll say, you have 20 grand. You can change that at the very end.
Right. Change it to the amount of your job.
Yes.
If you don't change it to the amount of your job, now what do you think is going to happen?
Now they have a $20,000 credit card.
Now they have a $20,000 credit card, which isn't always bad. Now let's say, for an example, because in their credit card, all they got to do is, let's say for an example, in 3 months from now or whatever, they decide, hey, I have more work I want to get done. They can use that card still, because they got approved for that amount. They don't have to do the whole 20 grand now and say, okay, I have a $20,000 credit card. Normally, when I sign up for a card, I went to Navy Federal Credit Union. They sent me something in the mail, right? So I go, it says to go online, but I tried to go online, I was having a hard time, so it says call this number on my computer. Call the number, it's the same type of thing, they get all your information, I give it to them. Oh, you're approved, $20,000. Okay, cool. That's different than this, because on that, I just have a credit limit of 20, I don't get charged anything until I actually go and buy it, right? Okay, here, it's different. If you click on the 20,000, they're basically gonna say, well, okay, they're going to have a $20,000 credit card. They don't have to use it all. Then they could choose. They could choose the $20,000 if they want to have that. People who know their finances are going to think of it this way, and this is how I look at it. If I get a $20,000 credit card, it's good for my credit because I have that much available. When you look at your credit, and I have pretty close to an 800 credit score, but the reason is because you keep your credit card balances low. And your debt ratio is good when you have like less than 20% on all of your cards. Now, if I were to go charge up everything on that card because let's say it had good miles or something, right? I could go in and say, all right, I have 15,000. I'm just going to put it all in there because they always offer you all these cool things, balance transfers, everything, right? But now I've got this high debt ratio on there, and my credit score will drop because of that. So it's the same thing with this. If Green Sky, if you have a $20,000 credit limit, and you're only using $3,000, that looks pretty good. So the customer just has to understand, even though we're putting $3,000 in there because that's all the job is, you still have a $20,000. You got approved for $20,000. All right, so as long as nothing's changed in the next, and they do have a time limit, and I want to say it's 30 days. I believe it's 30 days that they can still use. It might be 90, but I'm thinking, so in other words, if you use the 3,000 now, and that goes through and that's it, and you don't choose the 20,000 at the end,
It's like 4 or 5 months.
okay, yeah, I know there's a limit on it, and we'd have to find out, but I know there's a limit on
I
it.
want to say 6 months because it was technically April, and mine went to
October?
October
Okay.
2019. So I figure it's probably 6 months.
Yeah, because if you don't
Even
use
though
that
was kind of
20,000
in
now, if
April.
you don't use the rest of that 20,000 by that time limit comes up, it basically is gone. That's the difference between a credit card and this credit card.
Right.
You don't have the 20,000. So if you have more work, if you would let the customer know this benefits us. This is what I'm telling you. So if they have a $20,000 limit and you just use 3,000, they really still have that 17,000 left to use. Okay, but they do have a time limit, and it does say in the contract, so they'd have to read it. But maybe I didn't remember how long it was because I've only used Green Sky a few times
Credit card
myself.
had an expiration date.
Okay. So, but it's not like an expiration date like 2022.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like a regular credit card would be. That's what mine would say. Is it gives you a couple years. These only give you a few months. So I think the max is 6. I know it's not more than that, but for some reason I thought it was less. But either way, you could see it on there, and you just let the customer know. Hey, now so by the way, we do heating and air, we do plumbing, depending on which side you're getting it from. If you're in heating and air, you say, hey, we also do plumbing. If you have any plumbing things. I noticed your water heater's getting kind of old. You could also use this same financing through there. We can give you the no interest financing with payments, da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay?
We can use this same account.
Same account. Because as long as it's within that period of time before it expires, you can still use that other 17 grand for an example. Right? So it's just a really good thing because, so now's a good time to do it because if you don't, when this thing is done, it's done. It's not like a regular credit card that way. All right? Does that make sense? All right, so it's a pretty easy system. Ryan just attested to it by basically having to go through it yesterday for the first time.
It's a lot easier than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and it wasn't hard. So I had to go grab an iPad myself to kind of go, because I'd only done it on my system. I made sure it was set up right. And Luciano had used it last. I'm like, okay, call Luciano just to make sure. And I gave him a phone number to call.
Ironically, I was done before I realized I was already done.
Good.
I didn't realize that. I thought there was more to it, and that there was a bunch of other steps or something like that. Because last time I done it, there was a phone call, and other people
Right.
brought up phone calls and this and that. And I'm like, okay, where's that? And then he's like, no, you have the credit card? I was like, yeah, it says in the top left hand corner. He's like, oh, yeah, you're done. Now you can use that. You're fine. All they have to do is go to their email, and they can set up their account and make payments that way.
Right.
You're done. I was
Yep.
like, oh, that's took 10 minutes. All right, thanks, man. He's like, yeah, you're good. It was
Yeah.
it's very easy, very quick, and actually it's very simple.
So that's an option that all of you guys can use when you're out with a customer. And, whenever they bring up something about, I can't, this is expensive or I can't afford it right now, this is going on, that's going on. Green Sky's a great option. And, hey, we do have some financing options that are really cool. 6 months, 12 months, no interest with payments, without payments, and different things. Yeah. And it shows you what the payment is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that on that. Just use it, guys. Use it. Don't lose it, You don't want to lose your potential jobs when you have something like that. Because if you wouldn't have had Green Sky, you probably would have had to walk away. Right?
Yeah, it would have been possible.
Yeah. So, Green Sky helps a lot, and it gives them a real affordable payment. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is warranty parts. So, for an example, and I'm going to bring up this only because it's a good example from recent. This last weekend, Sarah had a couple warranty calls on Saturday. She was on call, had a couple warranty calls. So she goes out, and she ends up buying $347 part. Okay? Now, the part is warranted, but basically to get credit for that, you have to bring that part back to Ferguson, for an example, whoever, AC Pro, whoever it is, and then you get a credit memo. All right? Unlike a regular job, when you guys do a regular job that you're getting paid for, we put a purchase order in for that. This job also needs a purchase order for that original purchase. Everything we purchase gets a purchase order. So even though there's no money coming to us, I still need to see $347 purchase order, and then when I get the credit, when you return it, we go back into that job and put a negative $347 credit for the warranty part. That way I have a way of knowing that, you know, it was a warranty part and you did go return the part. Because if Sarah chooses not to return that part, I'm gonna go back and charge Sarah $347 out of her service volume. And I already told her that, but that's why it has to be done, because I'm not charging it on her pay period this period. I have that invoice aside. I wrote warranty on it, okay, so I know it's a warranty part, and then I reminded her, okay, you need to make sure you take that part in, and as soon as you do, give me the invoice, and then I'll do the negative 347, and it'll be canceled out. So, so basically next week's payroll, if I don't see a thing, I'm just gonna charge her for it. And then I'll credit her back when she decides to go turn the part in. That's the way it has to be. Because I'm not gonna sit here and worry, and you know, a year later, you didn't return the part, you know, and now it's got lost or thrown away or whatever, and we're gonna get stuck with paying $347, okay? So, it's really important to keep that, you know, keep those warranty things, warranty parts safe somewhere where you can return them and get credit for them. Okay. All right, the next thing. I wanted to talk just really briefly about not only your jobs, but your trucks. Okay, who's ever in a truck, whatever trucks you're in. It's going to be extremely difficult, and I don't want to have, we can throw a million things out there to say why. I don't want to hear it. It's not going to happen anymore. Trucks need to be clean and organized all the time. Now, I understand at the end of the day you're going to have trash bags full of trash and crap like that. That's fine. I get that. And then we can dump it out, you know, at the end of the day or first thing in the morning. That's fine. What I don't want to have happen is your truck is so disorganized and you say, oh, Jesse, can you go out to my truck and get some, you know, 2-inch drywall screws or whatever. And Jesse's got to lift up, you know, all these trash bags and everything's on the floor and there's just nothing organized at all and you can't find it. Or go get me a capacitor, or go get me whatever parts that may be in there. Go get me a thermostat, and you got to actually literally go through trash to grab it. So the reason I'm telling you this is because I'm trying extremely hard to get us more employees prior to our busy time, which is coming up. And the last employee we lost, by the way, the reason he didn't work very well the last 2 days, because I had a conversation with him, is he says, I could never ever work for a company that is so unorganized and their trucks look like trash bins. He says, all 3 days, I was asked to do this, asked to get this, asked to get this. He goes, it was the worst I've ever seen in my life. I've been doing this for 20-something years. I cannot work for a company that is so filthy and unorganized. Shirts down here, half caulking guns, you know, half used, just thrown in there, just screws everywhere under this, and good parts that don't have anything to do with this job, just thrown with trash. He says it was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. I cannot and will not work for a company like that. Now, I don't want to say anything bad about the guy. If he could have been a druggie, he could have been on, you know, on meth. I don't have a clue. All I'm saying is I don't want that reputation going out to anybody about us, number one. And I don't want to bring new guys in here that have that same impression of us. Because number one, what makes sense to me now, and I'm explaining this to you only because now something's making more sense to me. If you have a truck that's organized, and I mean, you have your parts all set up and all your, you know, supplies, screws, caulking, whatever, set up in the right place every time. Whoever takes it out puts it back where it goes every time. It's so much easier to get a job done in a timely manner. And we are struggling, struggling to get jobs done on time. Jobs that should take 3 or 4 days are taking us 6 or 7 days. Jobs that should take us a week and a half are taking us 3 or 4 weeks. We cannot be profitable. Cannot. It won't happen. You won't make any money if you're that way. So I'm telling you, when I go look at Sarah's truck compared to somebody else's truck, it's night and day. It's organized. Now, she has a lot more stuff on her truck and she has to be able to get a water heater, and you guys have a different truck for this and a different truck for that. But whatever truck if it's a service and repair truck, it should be organized to where everyone knows where everything is. This is where you get this is where you put it back. Your trash goes in trash bags. That's fine. If I gotta move a trash bag that's full of trash, that's one thing, but I shouldn't be digging through your truck where everything's just throwing trash in there like it was a trash can. Okay? So I'm gonna get to the point here, and it's gonna be happening probably in the next week or so. I'm gonna be checking your trucks, and I'm not gonna give you a job if your truck looks like shit. So before you leave, you're gonna say, my truck's ready to inspect. And I'm not expecting it to be restaurant floor clean. I mean, it's, I understand. I also bought this so we can stop getting screws in your tires. Little magnet brake, right? You just go across the floor, you go to the outside there when you're undoing stuff and taking trash out. But again, if stuff is in trash bags, we shouldn't have stuff getting collected on here, right? Screws go back where they go. But it's amazing how many screws, I was out in the back when I first got this and checking it out, how many screws and staples and crap like that till they got in here. With just 2 little run-bys, I went by and it's like, it was full. I'm just like, no wonder we have tire issues and nails and screws and tires. Because everybody's just throwing their trash out and walking away and getting out of here. I mean, organization is key, guys, to being, especially in a commissioned job. I mean, I know we have hourly employees, but if you're a commissioned employee and you can keep organized in your truck and on the job site, it'll get done so much faster and so much easier, and it's just so much smoother. When you're not, it is a mess. And you will be having a hard time finding this, and you're doing things twice and 3 times and going through things and having a hard time finding things, and the day just gets by you. It really does. So if it's your truck, you're responsible for that truck. I don't want to have you saying, oh, well, Jesse used my truck, or Ryan used my truck, or, Oscar was. If it's your truck and you're the lead tech, I don't care if you have a driver or not, it doesn't matter. It's your responsibility to make sure that that truck is clean and organized before you leave from here to your job. And then when you're leaving your job site and throughout the day, you see, your truck getting trashed, whoever just trashed it should be out there cleaning it. And lead by example. So that means, everything you do is what you expect of everybody else. Don't say, it's my truck, I'm responsible, so it's okay if I make a mess. You keep clean as you go, keep organized as you go, and your day will go by faster, and you'll get done more productively that way, rather than just being, the day goes by because you couldn't get anything done because you couldn't find anything and everything's a mess. Okay? And I can tell you how many parts you probably don't even realize you threw away or got thrown away. Maybe you didn't throw them away because somebody didn't realize it was, they're cleaning up your truck and it was on the ground or on the floor and it just got thrown away. I'm sure it happens. Because you can't have a truck that looks like a trash can and expect everything that's trash to be actually separated from things that are not trash. That make sense? Okay. So I will let you guys know. Maybe, like I said, it's probably going to be next week when I start doing that. But I'm just not going to send you out on jobs. I'm just, sit here until your truck gets clean, and then we'll send you out. And if it continues to be a problem, then I'll have to do something additional to that. But we just can't have it. So. That's pretty much all I really have for today. We have a real busy day. I know that Kevin was in there ordering some parts for the big reroute that we have going on, so we'll let you know in dispatch. Just kind of keep it quiet and everybody starts talking too much and they have a hard time answering the phone. But I will let you know shortly here who's going to go with who, but I think pretty much everybody's busy today, so, okay?
I have a counterpoint for all you apprentices, journeymen. Well, I see one journeyman for HVAC, that's Ryan, but I don't have to worry about him too much. When a foreman gives you clear directions, as in, use this wire to pull through this conduit, and you go pull something else that forces him to redo it, you literally just took my wallet, took $100 out of it, and went and spent it on whatever you wanted. This is pointed at no one in this room. But just, if you have any questions on something that you're supposed to do, there's a reason there's a lead there. Don't go rogue. Please spend the 5 minutes and ask the foreman the question.
Yeah, so guys, I mean, two-way communication, I've explained that before.
Yes,
Two-way communication is when someone says something to you and I say, hey Jason, can you take the piece of paper on your desk and hand it over to Ryan, please? Now, maybe he doesn't know who Ryan is. He's new. So if you just say, okay, And then you gotta look around and say, who's Ryan, which one's Ryan? Oh, he doesn't hear, he's not wearing a name tag today, or whatever. I mean, that's not two-way communication, that's just me telling him to do something, right? Two-way communication is him responding back to me, and I'll say, so Jason, what did I tell you to do?
You told me to talk to Ryan, turn my paper over to him.
Okay, all right. So now, you know, if he says, and he points at Ryan and says, yeah, you want me to give this paper to Ryan. Well, that's two-way communication. Now I know for sure he knows what I said, and who I meant, and what I'm talking about. What paper? Maybe he had 6 papers on his desk. He doesn't know what paper. I'm assuming he knew what paper he meant, you know, that I meant. But that's my part. I'm assuming, and you know what assuming does, right?
Makes an ass out of you and me.
Exactly. So guys, I mean, two-way communication means that you get confirmation from the person you're telling somebody to. If I say, Ryan, I need you to get the 16 gauge wire out of my truck, and I want you to run it through this piece of conduit I have laid here so that I can just have it ready for me, and I'm going to put it on the whatever. And then basically have Ryan repeat that to me. Which wire are you going to get? 16 gauge. What color is that, by the way? Oh, okay, it's green. Whatever. You got to be able to make sure that you're on the same page, because if Ryan grabs the 14 gauge wire, well, now it's got to be all either redone or whatever. I mean, it's just a waste of time and money and energy. Because basically the foreman or the lead, whoever the lead is paying for Ryan to do the work that he's doing if he's on his job. So if Ryan's doing something opposite, all that time and money just got wasted, and if that can't be reused because he just cut the wire to fit that conduit, now I can save that wire for later maybe, but it's just a waste. I mean, you may not need that exact same size again next time. So it depends how much wire he had in his truck, and does he need it for this or that, and now he can't use it because it's been cut.
Yeah,
So-
especially wired. Please don't waste wire. It's
Wire's
just as expensive as copper pipe,
Yeah, it is.
if not more. Especially 6 gauge, 8 gauge.
Right.
Like,
So let's make sure you guys understand and
$400 a roll.
use communication two-way, so we're all good to go. Trucks are going to stay clean. They've got to stay clean, and I'm not expecting perfectly clean, but I'm not expecting to see trash everywhere, and I want to see everything's on the shelves where they belong or put away in a container properly, that type of thing. Okay. And if something can be reused, save the money, guys. It's your money too. That's why commission is your money and my money. That's why when you waste something, you're wasting it for you and for me, because now you got to go buy more for your next job, rather than reusing caulking or wire or whatever we're talking about. Don't just throw stuff away that's not trash. Keep it organized and put it back where it goes. We all know how to close a caulking. If you have a half-used tube of caulking, you know how to close it so it doesn't dry out. You can use a screw on the end of it. Just get a big enough screw to put on it.
Well,
Sometimes they have
larger
caps.
bead
You can use one of the, I use the wire connector, screw those on the end of it. Yeah, they fit on the end of them if you get the right size. So, I mean, it's just you can reuse those all the time. You take that one off, next caulking, put it right back on. You're not using them every single time because they get expensive too. But there's all kinds of ways to be creative and save yourself money. You guys have got to think of it as this is your money too, because if you're saving your lead money, right? He's making more money or she's making more money. So that means they're going to want to use you more and more and more. They're going to want to teach you more and more and more. Because they're making more money that way. Now if you're throwing stuff away on them, it's costing them money. They're going to go, man, I don't want that person on my job. That's the last person, so let me see who else is available. They're going to try to pick and choose who they want. Everyone wants the guy or gal that's going to give them the most productivity, going to save them money by doing things and listening and asking questions and making sure they're on the same page, using two-way communication, and not just throwing crap away. Saving them money. That's who they want to use.
I have one more request. If you're on a job and there's drywall, leave the drywall to the last day until you're finally leaving. If there's drywall on the ground, if people cut holes and things, leave the drywall on the job. Do not take the drywall home. I say that because I'm usually the one people call in to help them finish up drywalls on the plumbing and the HVAC side. And it's a real pain in the ass to try to fit a piece of drywall that even when you're when you have your cuts, and I'm trying to fit a new piece of drywall into a hole that you cut out to search for something.
Yeah.
You realize you physically have a piece of drywall that fits that thing perfectly, right? You
Right.
just threw it away. Keep it. Keep the drywall. It simplifies things a hell of a lot.
It
It
does.
saves me 3 hours of work
Right.
that
And material.
now doesn't have to be done. Doesn't have to be paid for now.
And if you have more than one hole, because this job that we're gonna be doing for those of you who are
You're gonna do
newer,
search. You're gonna do investigative holes. You're gonna have to.
you basically put on there, for an example, if I'm gonna cut a hole on this wall, right? That may be hole number 1. I'm gonna put a 1 on the back of that drywall and a 1 right next to it on the wall. So I cut out a hole maybe this big. I come over here and I do another hole. Maybe it's a longer hole. I may be doing 3 holes on this wall. I'm gonna put number 2, number 2, number 3, number 3, number 4, number 4.
Try to write
One number
this.
goes on the actual piece of drywall and one goes right where you just, right next to where you took it off.
Or use a piece of tape.
Or use a piece of tape, because you're gonna be painting anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not a big deal, they're gonna be drywall, but now they know which goes to what, because you want the same piece of drywall going in the same hole. It's so much easier to do that repair,
Oh yeah.
patch back, when you have the piece of drywall that came out.
It really
Um,
is.
So, if you don't know that, and if you don't know how to do drywall or take drywall out, let someone show you first, and then, I always say see, try, and do, okay? When you're learning something new, see, try, and do. See somebody do it, try to do it in front of them, so that you can basically get validated that you know how to do it the way they want it done, and then you're doing it from then on, right? You should do it that way for them going forward. Now, it doesn't mean that Ryan's gonna be the same as Mike in how he does drywall when he takes it out. But if you're working with Ryan, do it how Ryan wants it done. Just verify with Ryan. Do it with Mike, do it how Mike wants it done. But you should still mark your drywall. I don't care if it's an A and an A and a B and a B and a C and a C. Whatever it is, a 1 and 1, 2, 3, whatever.
Smiley face.
Yeah, you just need to make sure they all match up. Make sense?
I'll gladly have a drywall workshop for anyone who wants to know how to do rough patch.
Or stucco.
But no, I won't teach you stucco.
I'll do it.
Because that's 3 different layers. There's a scratch layer, a La Habra, then a top coat. I'm not teaching.
I'm talking
stucco.
about patch. I'm not reading
But
someone's wall.
here's the thing, guys. A piece that comes off the wall that's already textured, that I just have to put a little bit of mud and maybe do some light sanding, is about 20 minutes worth of patchwork.
Yeah.
You throw away my piece of drywall and I don't have a textured piece, you literally just cost me 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
Because I have to put 20-minute mud on it with tape, and I gotta wait 20 minutes. Then I gotta get 90-minute mud, and then I gotta float it. And then I have to sand it, then I gotta texture it,
Yeah.
then I gotta sand it again. So you cost me 3.5 hours. And it has to be my time, because
Yeah.
Alan's not gonna go out there and do it for free. And trust me, Friday night, he's not gonna let me call a drywaller in to come in Saturday and fix something.
Yeah,
Right?
there's good drywallers out there, guys, that can do, amazing things, that are really good with that. But they're the same way. If you give them the same piece of drywall, they'll knock it out in no time.
10 minutes, he's out.
But if not, it'll look good when you're done, if they know what they're doing, but it just takes a lot more time, which is a lot more money. Because when you gotta go on a job, if you have a drywaller come to the job in particular, not even one of our guys, if a drywaller comes to the job to do it, they're artists, most of them, right? They want it to look really good. So it's a 3-4 hour job, because they've got to wait for it to dry before they can do the next step. Then they got to do this and wait for the next step. So even if they have to go and come back and go and come back, that's time. It's like us going and putting a water heater in and leaving and going and getting a water heater pan and then coming back and putting that in, and then going and getting supply lines and coming back and, oh, let's go get a gas valve and come back. Heck, there's no money in the job now. Our time is money, guys, because I can get you on another job making money, and I can't do that if you're still fiddling around with this one, all right?
Yeah, and
So,
this last job, obviously, I paid a roofer. I'm not gonna mess with
yeah,
half moon clay tile. Normally, I'll knock out flashing myself. But think about it, that's just cutting some clay tile roof, pulling some tiles off, putting it back. He was there maybe, what, an hour, hour and a half? Right?
Oh, wasn't it?
Just about 2 hours, right? Sorry, I get the two mixed up sometimes. I usually
it
go
looks
off
so,
like.
yeah, they do look all right.
Look, you're.
Well, no, I use them both the same. You're a little prettier than Ryan, but that's besides the point. That was 2 hours, and with his materials and his expertise, that was still $250 out of my pocket.
Yep.
And a drywaller would be no cheaper. And then furthermore, talking about money, if you are picking up supplies for a foreman, that is not your liberty to just start adding things like line set covers, screws, other things to the job just because you think we need them. Phone call. If you've got ideas that you think, hey, maybe he doesn't have this on the truck, I just remembered this, let me check with him. Because I've got probably about $300 worth of returns for this last job.
Okay.
Because the liberty was taken to just put it on the job anyway.
Gotcha. So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, guys. Just don't do that. But, you know, talk to whoever job it is, and they're the ones that decide whatever extras you might need if you have a thought. So I know you're just trying to help. I know it wasn't probably intentional, but now we got to go back and return all that stuff. So, all right, that's it. So let's get up there in front, get some work done, and make some money.